One of Foolio's killers just snitched. Apparently, after being left alone in the interrogation room, Davian Murphy didn't realize the camera was rolling and started reenacting the murder.
He starts walking around the interview room, and then he starts going, and then he walks around, and then he does it again.
Murphy basically handed the prosecution everything they needed to bury him, and he even dropped names. I'm breaking it all down. Let's get into it. Killers thought the cameras were off. The murder of Charles Andrew Jones II, better known in these streets as rapper Foolio, sent shockwaves through the rap game and had the whole hood talking. On June 23, 2024, what was supposed to be a birthday celebration for the 26-year-old rapper turned into a nightmare when he got murked in a targeted hit outside a Holiday Inn in Tampa, Florida. This wasn't no random drive-by or some spur-of-the-moment beef. This was some calculated, cold-blooded executed by who had been stalking their target all night long. But here's where it gets real spicy, fam. These so-called killers thought they were some criminal masterminds, some real G's who could outsmart the system. Little did they know their own arrogance and straight-up stupidity would become the smoking gun that would have them facing life sentences or the death penalty. We're talking about evidence so damning that even the best defense lawyers in the game would be scratching their heads trying to figure out how to spin this. The story starts jumping off in an interrogation room at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, where Davian Murphy, one of the 5 suspects charged with Foolio's murder, was getting grilled by the boys in blue. Murphy, this 27-year-old street soldier, allegedly tied to that 1200 gang, had been running from the law for over 6 months before they finally caught his ass on January 6, 2025, with help from the U.S. Marshal Service. Now picture this scene, real talk. You got detectives going hard in the paint, asking all kinds of questions, trying to get this to slip up and incriminate himself. Murphy's sitting there trying to play it cool, trying to give just enough answers to seem like he's cooperating without snitching on himself or his homies. The tension in that room was thicker than a bowl of grits, with these investigators pressing him about where he was the night of the murder, who he was rolling with, and what his role was in this whole conspiracy that led to Foolio getting smoked. Then came the moment that changed everything, the moment that had this street looking like the biggest fool in Jacksonville. During a break in the questioning, the detective stepped out the room, leaving Murphy by himself. In that moment, this dude made what would turn out to be the most boneheaded move of his entire life. What Murphy's slow ass didn't realize, what he couldn't have even imagined, was that surveillance cameras were still rolling, catching every single thing he was about to do. Thinking he was all alone with no eyes on him, Murphy started wilding out in ways that would later have the whole courtroom shook. According to detective testimony during his bond hearing on January 16, 2025, this fool was caught on camera acting out shooting motions, pretending to hold a rifle.
He puts out his arms like this, and it appears that he's brandishing a rifle with one hand extended and one, what I would consider the trigger finger. He starts walking around the interview room, and then he starts going, and then he walks around, and then he does it again.
Can you picture this? Here's this grown man facing potential life behind bars or the electric chair, acting out what looked like him reliving the murder he was being questioned about. The detective who had to testify about this crazy behavior was so blown away by what he witnessed that he actually demonstrated Murphy's actions right there in court, showing the judge and everybody else exactly what this surveillance footage captured. But this wasn't just some random tweaking or nervous energy. This was a dude who appeared to be celebrating, maybe even getting off on one of the most heinous crimes Jacksonville had seen in a minute. The prosecution later argued that Murphy's actions showed he thought the cameras had stopped recording, making his behavior even more incriminating. To really understand how monumentally stupid this move was, you gotta understand the backdrop of Foolio's murder. This wasn't some random street beef or a crime of passion. This was the bloody conclusion of a decade-long gang war that had already left dozens of bodies in its wake. Foolio, who was deep in the 6-block set of the KTA, Kill Them All gang, had been locked in a deadly feud with rival sets ATK, Ace's Top Killers, and 1200 Out East. This wasn't just some rap beef that stayed on wax. This was real street shit that had been escalating through social media disrespect, diss records, and most tragically, through violence that had touched multiple families and hoods. On that fateful night in June 2024, Foolio was out celebrating his birthday, hitting up different spots in Tampa.
Hey, the pool party start today at 5, 6 o'clock. If you already got the address, pull up, man. You got the address, pull up. If you need the address, DM me right now. Pool party started at 5, 6 o'clock.
After the pool party, the suspects trailed Foolio to Teaser's Gentlemen's Club, Truth 18 nightclub, and finally the Home 2 Suites, where the ambush occurred. The had no clue that his ops were on his trail, watching his every move, waiting for the perfect moment to catch him slipping. One of the most tragic aspects of the incident was how Foolio's social media activity led his killers to him. He was posting on social media in real time as he moved from location to location.
We came deep for my birthday, man. Everybody coming like a fair. Counts, man. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? We deep as hell. We deep as hell, 20 deep.
What he didn't know was that he was providing his killers with a GPS to his exact whereabouts. The hit itself was some professional level with 3 shooters using high-powered rifles and leaving 31 shell casings scattered around the scene. This was the type of coordinated attack that required serious planning, multiple participants, and the kind of organization that showed these weren't playing around. 5 suspects got knocked for the murder. Sean Gathright, 18, Isaiah Chance, 21, Alicia Andrews, 21, Rashad Murphy, 30, and Davion Murphy, 27. Each one of these individuals was allegedly connected to the rival sets that had been beefing with Foolio's crew for years. The evidence against these cats was already looking bad for them. Surveillance footage showed the suspects following Foolio all around Tampa that night. Phone records revealed some real incriminating communications, including text messages from Rashad Murphy talking about Don Julio as a way to disrespect Foolio. Digital evidence showed that Rashad Murphy had booked an Airbnb in Tampa the day before the shooting. But Davion Murphy's clown show performance in that interrogation room took this case to a whole different level. Here was a suspect facing the most serious charges you can imagine, apparently acting out the very crime he was accused of committing. The incident was so significant that it became a major talking point during Murphy's bond hearing, which went on for 5 hours and ended with the judge denying bond. The prosecution successfully convinced the court that Murphy was too dangerous to be let back on the streets, and his amateur hour performance in the interrogation room damn sure didn't help his cause. The prosecution has made it clear that 3 suspects, Isaiah Chance, Sean Gathright, and Rashad Murphy, are looking at the death penalty if they get convicted, while Alicia Andrews, who's pregnant, isn't facing the ultimate punishment. Davion Murphy, given the nature of the evidence against him and his alleged role as one of the shooters, is probably going to be facing the death penalty too. The legal proceedings are complex and still unfolding. Alicia Andrews' trial was supposed to happen in early January 2025, but got pushed back after her lawyer quit, with a new tentative date sometime around August 2025 or later. The other suspects, including Murphy, are looking at trials scheduled for April 2026. The decade-long street war that took Foolio out. To really understand the wild we just witnessed in that interrogation room, we need to take a deep dive into the grimy, violent world that created it. The murder of Julio Foolio wasn't some random act of violence. It was the tragic end result of a decade-long street war that has left dozens of bodies dropping and families destroyed all across Jacksonville, Florida. This is a story about young caught up in never-ending cycles of revenge, about neighborhoods turned into war zones. Charles Andrew Jones II, known to the streets as Julio Foolio, was born on June 21st, 1998, and came up in Jacksonville's Moncrief neighborhood. His early life was marked by tragedy and hardship that would shape not only his music, but also his path toward the gang lifestyle that would ultimately get him killed. His pops got murdered in a 2011 shooting when Foolio was just 13 years old, an event that left a permanent scar on the young man and pushed him deeper into the street culture that surrounded him. Foolio got put on with the 6-block set of the KTA, Kill Them All Street Gang, a crew that operated primarily in the Moncrief area and was known for getting into all kinds of illegal activities. His music often reflected these affiliations, with bars that spoke to the harsh realities of street life and the constant threat of violence. On the flip side of this deadly equation was another young whose life had been similarly shaped by violence and loss. Keonta Tyrone Bullard, known in the rap game as Youngin Ace, was born on February 12, 1998 in East Chicago, Indiana, but moved to Jacksonville when he was young. Growing up with his moms and 11 brothers in tough circumstances, Ace's early life was marked by struggle and hardship. His father also got killed in 2011, the same year as Foolio's father, creating parallel tragedies that would shape both young men's futures. Youngin Ace got affiliated with the ATK, Ace's Top Killers gang, which was named after him and represented a rival faction to Foolio's 6-block crew. This rivalry would become the central axis around which years of violence would revolve, drawing in dozens of other young and ultimately creating a web of loyalty, betrayal, and revenge that would prove impossible to escape. The beef that would eventually get Foolio murked started getting serious in 2017 with the killing of his 18-year-old cousin, Zion Malik Brown. This incident is believed to have sparked the deadly gang war, setting off a chain reaction of retaliatory violence that would escalate over the following years. The conflict reached a devastating peak on June 5, 2018. A shooting at the St. John's Town Center left Youngin Ace wounded and 3 others dead, his brother Trevon Bullard and 2 homies, Royale Devon Smith Jr. and Jacoby Deshad Groover. This shooting was reportedly carried out by members of 6 Block, marking a serious escalation in the violence between the 2 factions. What happened next would illustrate just how cruel and public this feud had become. Foolio posted disrespectful content on social media, including a t-shirt with the phrase, "Rest in 23," mocking Royale Devon Smith Jr., further intensifying the feud. The stage was set for years of increasingly violent retaliation that would claim numerous lives and terrorize entire communities. In January 2019, Willie Addison, known as Boss Goon, got smoked at Paradise Gentlemen's Club, an incident linked to the ongoing conflict. Also in 2019, Lil Buck, Charles Quentin McCormick Jr., and Bibby, Adrian Denard Gaynor Jr., both associated with KTA, got killed in separate incidents, seen as retaliatory hits by ATK. Foolio himself became a target multiple times, surviving shootings in July 2020 in Houston, Texas, and again in October 2023 in Jacksonville. Foolio himself talked about the 2023 shooting on Instagram Live. He said,
When I look down on my foot, I see him bleeding, but I'm like, I see the front. See, I ain't show y'all the back side of my ankle. The front and the back side of my ankle, like, they bleed.
Each close call only seemed to heighten the tension and increase his enemy's determination to take him out permanently. Both sides weaponized social media and music to fuel the feud, creating a public spectacle of their private war. Foolio dropped diss tracks like When I See You, which racked up nearly 1 million views in 12 hours, talking to ATK members. On the other side, ATK, led by Youngin Ace, dropped Who I Smoke, which gained over 14 million views in 3 weeks, referencing the killing of 6 Block members and glorifying violence. These platforms were used not just to disrespect rivals, but also to recruit new soldiers and document the conflict, with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office even using rap videos to make arrests in January 2019. The involvement of a third gang, 1200 Out East, which allied with ATK against 6 Block, further complicated the dynamics and increased the number of potential shooters and victims. This alliance would prove crucial in Foolio's murder, as suspects Rashad Murphy and Davion Murphy were both affiliated with 1200 Out East. The conflict has been characterized by law enforcement as involving dozens of murders by and against both sides, making it one of the most deadly gang wars in Jacksonville's history. The casualties weren't just gang members. Innocent bystanders, family members, and entire communities were affected by the violence that seemed to have no end in sight. In more recent times, the violence has continued to claim innocent victims, including the January 2025 murder of 7-year-old Breon Allen, who got killed in a shooting targeting his cousin, a rapper associated with ATK. 6 suspects, aged 17, 24, and affiliated with 6 Block, got knocked in connection with this tragic incident. Youngin Ace's connection and the wild revelations. All right, now we get into the juiciest part of this whole story, the part that involves one of Jacksonville's biggest rap stars and all the wild controversy surrounding his potential connection to Foolio's murder. Youngin Ace, whose government name is Keonta Bullard, sits right in the middle of a web of allegations, denials, and contradictions that keep generating headlines and street talk more than a year after the fatal shooting. Till date, Youngin Ace ain't been charged with any crimes related to Foolio's murder, despite his central role in the gang rivalry that ultimately led to the killing. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office has stated that there is no current investigation into Ace for Foolio's murder, though they continue to keep tabs on him due to his gang affiliations and the ongoing tensions in the streets. However, Ace's connection to the case runs deep through his association with the ATK gang and his well-documented beef with Foolio. During a bond hearing for Davion Murphy on January 17, 2025, which went on for 5 hours, police extensively discussed Ace's connection to ATK and the rivalry with Foolio's crew. While Ace was central to the narrative presented by law enforcement, the state attorney's office has indicated they are building their case based on facts and evidence and currently are not pursuing charges against him. Now here's where this gets real. Wild. Fam. The relationship between Youngin Ace and Foolio was way more complex than simple gang rivalry might suggest. In a shocking revelation that came during an Instagram live session on July 21st, 2024, Ace disclosed that he and Foolio were actually cool before the murder.
What you think about Foolio dying, cuz? That's sad. Twin, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Y'all boys in the street, y'all didn't leave the streets alone, twin. All condone and like that. It's so funny cause me, bro, like we cool, like we was cool and feel me, him, like we cool and I was just, so funny, I was just talking to him, I'm like, bro, you gotta stop the way, bro, you know, I love y'all here, like stop the way, bro.
Like, you know, I with your wrist.
Yo, this revelation had the whole hip-hop community shook. Here were two young who had been portrayed as deadly enemies, whose beef had been documented in countless diss tracks and social media posts. Yet according to Ace, they had squashed their issues privately before Foolio got murked. But hold up, because Ace's actions immediately after Foolio's death raised some serious questions about how sincere his claims really were. On June 24th, 2024, just hours after Foolio got smoked, Ace dropped a song titled Do It. The timing and content of this release sparked immediate controversy, with fans and observers interpreting it as a diss track aimed at the deceased rapper. The lyrics of Do It included bars like, "They called my phone, said they got the low, I told them do it," which many people interpreted as a reference to Foolio's murder. The music video that came with the song showed scenes that looked like the hotel parking lot where Foolio got killed, leading to widespread speculation about whether Ace was celebrating his rival's death or just trying to capitalize on the publicity surrounding the murder. The situation got even more complicated when some unverified claims started circulating on social media. A video surfaced featuring a masked man who claimed to be the shooter responsible for Foolio's death, alleging that Youngeen Ace had paid him to carry out the killing.
I'm the one that smacked Foolio that night when he got dropped at his birthday celebration. I rock with Ace and them boys, you feel me? ATK, you feel me? I be in Jacksonville heavy. Ace had that money on his head, you know, Ace had them put that 10K up. Told me to slide, told me to smack Fool, because you know he got tired of that running his mouth playing all the time.
However, this claim remains completely unverified, as the individual's identity is unknown, and there is no official confirmation from law enforcement or credible sources. Reports from multiple hip-hop news outlets have emphasized that this accusation is speculative and not linked to any charges or investigations. Real talk, anybody can put on a mask and claim they did some wild shit. Doesn't mean it's true. Youngeen Ace's own legal troubles have added another layer of complexity to the situation. On April 15th, 2024, he got knocked in Jacksonville Beach for gun possession, but those charges got dropped on July 3rd, 2024, due to insufficient evidence. Court records showed that DNA and phone evidence failed to connect Ace with the weapons, and prosecutors declined to prosecute, citing a low likelihood of conviction. The dropped charges highlight the challenges law enforcement faces when dealing with high-profile figures in gang-related cases. Sheriff TK Waters has acknowledged Ace's long-known involvement in local gang activities, but emphasizes that charges must be based on solid evidence rather than street reputation or gang association. The 5 suspects who actually got knocked for Foolio's murder were all affiliated with ATK and 1200 Out East, the gangs associated with Youngeen Ace. This connection is undeniable and forms the basis for much of the speculation about Ace's potential involvement. The evidence against the actual suspects is extensive and damning as Digital evidence included text messages from Rashad Murphy talking about Don Julio as a way to disrespect Foolio, and the fact that Murphy had booked an Airbnb in Tampa the day before the shooting. Ballistic analysis linked weapons used in the murder to 4 shootings and 1 homicide in 2022 Jacksonville. The prosecution's case is built on this concrete evidence linking the suspects directly to the crime scene and the murder itself. While Youngeen Ace's gang affiliations and beef with Foolio provide important context, law enforcement has focused their charges on those cats who can be directly connected to the actual shooting. One of the most interesting aspects of this case is Isaiah Chance's claim that he's innocent. In May 2025, Chance posted on Instagram arguing that police arrested the wrong people, stating there was no clear footage identifying the shooters, no murder weapons recovered, and no shell casings linking him directly to the crime. This claim introduces an element of uncertainty and contrasts with the prosecution's reliance on circumstantial evidence, though it should be noted that defendants claiming innocence is nothing new in criminal cases. Public reaction to Youngeen Ace's potential involvement has been mixed and intense as hell. Social media discussions have ranged from those who believe he orchestrated the murder to those who see him as being unfairly targeted due to his rivalry with Foolio. Following the arrest of his affiliates, Ace posted on Instagram stating, "When you approach me, be ready to die or go to jail. That's my mentality," a statement that was seen by some as a general warning, but was made in the context of the murder case. Law enforcement's approach to Youngeen Ace reflects the delicate balance they must maintain between investigating potential connections and avoiding charges based solely on association or street reputation. Sheriff TK Waters has noted the level of surveillance and monitoring directed at high-profile gang figures, saying,
So Youngeen Ace has long been known in Jacksonville. We are consistently monitoring those groups. We have people that are always watching them.
The case has also highlighted the complex relationship between artistic expression and criminal activity in the drill rap scene. Both Foolio and Youngin Ace built their careers partially on documenting and dramatizing their gang affiliations and beefs. Their music videos, social media posts, and lyrics have all been scrutinized by law enforcement and used as evidence in various cases. While the 5 suspects in custody await their trials, facing potential life sentences or even death, Youngin Ace continues his music career under the watchful eye of law enforcement, his every move scrutinized for potential connections to ongoing violence. And in Jacksonville's neighborhoods, young people continue to face the same choices that led to this tragedy, hoping that somehow their stories might end differently. But one thing's for sure, this case has exposed the ugly reality of how social media beefs can turn deadly, how gang loyalty can lead young to throw their lives away, and how the streets always demand payment for debts that should never have been incurred in the first place. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.